Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. We have a special one for you today. We're not just talking about the news. We're going to break down a topic that, honestly, sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's very much a reality that's knocking or maybe drilling at our door. We're talking about Neuralink, the future where your brain just connects to a computer.
Or, as I like to call it, how to sell your skull into subscription-based slavery. Hello!
Wow, okay, coming in hot right from the start. Look, here's the deal. We've got a whole stack of material in front of us. We've got analytic articles, and most interestingly, we've got these massive threads from Reddit. We're talking spirituality, our futurology, our cyberpunk. We've gone through the opinions of enthusiasts, skeptics, hackers, and even, self-proclaimed spiritual seekers. Our mission today is to figure this out. Is Neuralink a ticket to a utopian future where we all become superhuman, or is it the beginning of the darkest episode of Black Mirror ever made?
Spoiler alert. It's Black Mirror, but go on. Try to convince me otherwise. You're playing the optimist today, right?
Absolutely. And come on, let's be honest for a second. Who here hasn't seen The Matrix? Remember that scene where they plug Neo in, upload a program, he opens his eyes and just goes, I know Kung Fu. That's the dream. No more years of training, no cramming for exams, no boring lectures. You just download knowledge, or even better, telepathy. Communicating with concepts, with images, no words needed. It's evolution. We could send emotions as easily as we send emojis right now. And, most importantly, the company's mission. They want to cure paralysis, restore sight to the blind. That's noble. That's about helping people who've lost all hope.
Noble. You know what the road to hell is paved with, don't you? Good intentions and Elon Musk's PowerPoint presentations. Let me just hit you with the apple juice theory right away. This comes from one of our Reddit sources, from the spirituality thread of all places. It sounds silly, but when you unpack it, it's a fundamental architectural problem with any brain-computer interface.
The apple juice theory. That sounds way too innocent for you. What could possibly be scary about that?
Oh, trust me, there's nothing innocent about it. Look, the logic is dead simple. We're talking about a two-way interface. If the chip can read signals from the brain to control a computer, that's the output, moving a cursor with your mind, then just by the laws of physics and information, that channel works in reverse. That's the input. The computer can send signals to the brain.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point of the technology, too. Like you said, restore sight. A camera sees something, sends a signal to the brain decodes it, and the person can see. That's beautiful.
Yes, but there's a nuance there that changes everything. The author of this theory wrote, and I quote, I am sure the patient will not be told that his sudden craving for apple juice was generated by the implant. Let's unpack that. Imagine this.
Sure.
The chip stimulates your pleasure center or your thirst center, but in a very specific way. You don't just see an ad for juice pop up in your vision like a banner. You feel a physiological need for it. Your mouth gets dry. Your brain secretes saliva. You have a phantom taste of apple on your tongue.
Wait, so you're saying the line between my desire and an implanted desire just disappears?
Exactly. Your brain thinks it was your idea. You get up, you go to the store, you buy that specific brand of juice, you drink it, and you get a hit of dopamine. That could, by the way, also be amplified by the chip. You are the perfect consumer. You don't even know you're being led.
Okay, that's a little creepy.
Sorry.
So what you're saying is we're moving from manipulation through our phone screens, where at least we can look away, to direct manipulation of our neurons.
100%. We're in an era where TikTok and Instagram algorithms try to guess what you want by analyzing your likes. Neuralink is potentially an era where a corporation tells you what you want on a chemical level. The optimist says we're helping the vulnerable walk again. The skeptic says you're prying open the human skull for late-stage capitalism.
All right, I'll grant you the apple juice theory is a strong opening argument. It really makes you question the nature of free will. But let's get back to some facts and figures. The demand is insane. One of our sources on our futurology claims Neuralink has a backlog, a waiting list of 10,000 patients ready to go under the knife tomorrow. 10,000 people. That has to count for something, right? That's trust. People believe in this.
Oh, my friend, let's unpack that number. I love statistics, especially when they're being manipulated. 10,000 people on the waiting list. Do you know how that list is formed? It's not a hospital wait list where you've had a consult with doctors, an MRI, blood tests, and they've scheduled you for surgery. It's a newsletter sign-up on a website.
Seriously, they just gave their email address.
That's essentially it. It's a classic move from product management. Any startup folks listening will get this. It's called a fake door MVP, a minimum viable product. That's a fake door. You put a shiny button on your website that says pre-order telepathy module, and you just see how many people click it. The product doesn't exist yet. The tech is raw, but you can go to your investors and say, look at the incredible demand. The market is desperate for this.
Well, okay. But even if it's just interest, it shows that people want it. It's a validation of the idea.
It shows that people are either desperate or naive. One of the commenters on Reddit put it perfectly, if a little crudely. I have to quote this because it just illustrates the value of that kind of statistic. He wrote, I have a backlog of 20 gorillion people for my theoretical sex bot that looks like Ana de Armas. Does that make the bot real? No. Does it make the statistic valid? Also no. But the number sounds great in a press release and for bumping up the stock price.
Huh. Okay, 20 gorillion is a pretty strong point. It really highlights the absurdity of those claims. But Elon Musk is behind this. You can feel however you want about him. He's eccentric, he's a troll, but he's a visionary. He sends rockets to Mars, and they land themselves. He made electric cars mainstream when everyone said it was impossible. Doesn't a guy like that deserve some credit, some trust? He actually changes the world.
A visionary? Maybe. An engineering genius? That's debatable. But let's just remember the Cybertruck for a second. The vehicle that was supposed to be the armored car of the future. An indestructible fortress. And what did we get? Stainless steel that rusts in the rain. Body panels with gaps you can stick your fingers in. A trunk that can literally chop your fingers off if you're not careful.
Okay, but that's the auto industry. It has its own complexities.
It's the culture of production. It's the move fast and break things culture. In IT, that works. If Facebook goes down for an hour, we'll survive. But in neurosurgery... Now think about it. Do you want the guy who shipped a truck that rusts to put electrodes into your motor cortex? Do you want panel gaps in your skull?
Well, the Cybertruck is metal. This is medicine. The level of regulation and accountability is totally different. The FDA is involved and all that.
The corporate culture is the same. And that's what's scary. Actually, speaking of that, there was this interesting, if politically charged, debate on Reddit. People aren't just afraid of technical failures, like with a Tesla. They're afraid of ideological failures.
What do you mean by that? Like thought censorship?
Exactly. Imagine your chip has built-in safety filters, like ChatGPT has now, and suddenly your thoughts are being flagged as inappropriate, hateful, or misinformation. Does your ability to speak get throttled? Do you get a little electric shock for having the wrong political opinion? I'm not saying that's Musk's plan, though given his love for controlling discourse on on X, it's not a huge leap. The sources are just voicing this fear. There's an operating system, there's an admin. And who's the admin of your brain?
Now we're getting into Orwellian territory. Thought crime becomes a literal thing. But let's step back from the politics for a second and talk about the hardware. Or rather, the meat and metal. The tech is incredible. The N1 chip, 124 electrodes on 64 threads. Each thread is thinner than a human hair. They're sewn in by the R1 surgical robot with unbelievable precision, dodging blood vessels. It's like jewelry work. It's not a butcher with an axe. It's next-level microsurgery.
It sounds like jewelry work in the marketing brochure. And I'm not denying the R1 robot is an amazing piece of engineering. But let's turn to our Ukrainian analytical source, which describes the reality so well, it calls this the wetware problem.
Wetware? That sounds kind of gross. What is it?
And it should sound gross because the reality of biology is wet and salty. Look, here's the problem. Electronics love dry, stable, motionless environments. And the brain is, in the words of our source, salty jelly. It's an aggressive chemical environment, and most importantly, it moves.
It moves. But it's packed pretty tightly in the skull, isn't it?
It's not glued in. It's floating in cerebrospinal fluid. Every time your heart beats, your brain pulses. Every time you breathe, it shifts slightly. When you turn your head quickly, your brain moves with inertia inside your cranium.
And what does that mean for those super thin electrodes?
Imagine you've stuck a fork into a bowl of Jell-O. Now, start shaking that bowl like during an earthquake. What's going to happen to the Jell-O right around the prongs of the fork?
It's going to tear. The fork is going to widen the holes.
Precisely. You get micro tears. And this is where the brain's immune system comes into play. It's no joke. We have our own little police force and construction crew in their cells called microglia and astrocytes. When they detect a foreign object that's moving around and damaging tissue, they react instantly. A process called gliosis begins.
Gliosis, that's scarring, right?
Exactly. The brain tries to wall off the intruder. The astrocytes build a dense wall of scar tissue around each electrode. For For the body, it's a defense mechanism. For Neuralink, it's a catastrophe. Because scar tissue is an insulator, it doesn't conduct electricity. The signal from the neurons gets weaker and weaker, there's more noise, and eventually the communication channel just dies. The source calls it the body's own ad block. Your brain is physically blocking Neuralink.
But they talk about successful trials. They say the threads are flexible and they move with the brain.
That's the theory. Now let's look at the practice and the stats that the skeptics and leaked veterinary reports bring up. Between 2017 and 2020, Neuralink's experiments at UC Davis involved 23 monkeys. Do you know how many of them survived without being euthanized due to complications?
I mean, I hope most of them. It's science. There are losses, but...
7. Just 7 out of 23. The majority died or were put down. And the reasons are horrifying. Infections, brain swelling. There were cases where the monkeys, out of pain or distress, were literally tearing at their own heads trying to pull the implant out. This is what the reports dryly call terminal states, but in reality, it's just torture.
Horrible. I didn't know those details. It really changes the whole picture.
Yeah.
But wait, we have humans now. Nolan Darbaugh, the guy who's paralyzed from the neck down, he was playing chess with his mind, he was controlling a cursor, playing Civilization the Sixth until dawn. He looked happy in the video. Isn't that proof of success? It changed his life.
Nolan is an absolute champion, and his optimism is inspiring. He's a true pioneer. But even in his case, the company admitted that within a month of the surgery, the electrode threads started to retract or pull out of the brain.
What do you mean pull out?
Literally. They started losing contact with the neurons. The number of effective electrodes dropped sharply. The engineering team had to tweak the algorithms, make them more sensitive, just to compensate for the loss of physical connection. They saved the day with software, but the hardware problem is still there. It proves that we are beta testing this on live human beings. We're treating the human brain like an early access game on Steam. Except you can't just uninstall the game, get a refund, and forget about the bugs. The bug stays in your head.
Okay, you've really grounded me on the biology. That image of the fork in the Jell-O is going to be stuck in my head now. But you know what scared me the most from the articles we read? It wasn't even the monkeys. It's the story of that company, Second Sight. I'd never heard of them before. And it's a literal body horror plot.
Oh, yeah. That's probably the single most important history lesson that all the tech optimists are ignoring. It's the precedent. Why don't you tell the listeners what happened so they understand the scale of the risk?
Right. So there was this company, Second Sight. They were doing something revolutionary retinal implants for blind people called the Argus I and Argus II. It was a pair of glasses with a camera that sent a signal to an implant watered directly into the eye. People who had lived in total darkness for years, for decades, started to see, it wasn't perfect vision, it was pixelated, black and white patches of light, but they could see a doorway, a crosswalk, the silhouette of a loved one. It was a miracle, a technological resurrection.
And then came the market, the invisible hand of the market.
Exactly. The company ran into financial trouble, they stopped production, and eventually they basically went bankrupt or changed their business focus, and they just stopped supporting the product. And one day, the lights went out.
Just imagine that moment.
People didn't just go blind again. They were left with non-functioning dead electronics in their heads and in their eyes. And the worst part is, doctors say it's dangerous to remove these implants. It's a complex surgery that could damage the eyeball or cause an infection. So these people are hostages to junk hardware inside their own bodies.
And it's not just that the lights went out. That hardware gets old, it can heat up, it can cause inflammation, it prevents you from getting an MRI if you suddenly need a brain scan. Imagine it. You lost your sight because a company ran out of server money. Or because the board of directors decided to pivot.
That's like a subscription for your own eyes. We're sorry, your free trial of vision has expired. Please update your payment information. It just doesn't compute. We're used to buying a phone, and if the company disappears, okay, you have a brick in your pocket, you buy a new one. But here, your own body becomes the brick.
The subscription to walking analogy is perfect here. Imagine Neuralink does cure your paralysis. You're walking, you're running, and then your credit card expires, and you're stopped in the middle of the street. This is what we mean by corporate control over biology. You become dependent not on medicine or your own health, but on a cloud service and a startup's business plan. You lose sovereignty over your own body.
You know, speaking of dependency and control, there's another topic that blew up on Reddit, and it's all about security. The thread was titled, Never-Ending Rickroll Directly to Your Brain.
Ah, a classic. Rick Astley as a weapon of mass destruction. I was waiting for this one.
It sounds funny, and we're all used to getting rickrolled online. But if you think about it seriously, the goal of Neuralink is to cure blindness and deafness, right? That means the chip has to be able to create audiovisual hallucinations. It has to stimulate the auditory cortex so you hear a sound that isn't actually in the air.
Yep, it's the principle of a cochlear implant, but on steroids. Direct cortical stimulation.
So now imagine the scenario. A hacker finds a vulnerability in the chip's Bluetooth protocol, and we all know Bluetooth is a sieve. They gain access to your audio stream, and they loop "Never Gonna Give You Up" on repeat, at max volume, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And this is where the real horror, the part people don't grasp, kicks in. You can't cover your ears, you can't put in earplugs, you can't take out headphones. The sound isn't coming from outside, it's being born inside your sound processing center. Your brain is generating the song. You can't escape it, you can't sleep. It's a form of torture that could drive you insane in hours. It's worse than Guantanamo because it's happening inside your own head.
Or even worse, our Ukrainian source brings up the term ransomware for the body. We're used to viruses that encrypt your hard drive and demand Bitcoin.
It's the logical evolution of cybercrime, yeah.
Imagine this. You wake up one morning, you try to get out of bed, and your legs don't move.
Oh.
Or you open your eyes, and instead of your bedroom, you see a black screen with a red countdown timer. And a voice inside your head, literally in your head, says, "Transfer 5 Bitcoin to this wallet to unlock your walking drivers. You have 24 hours."
It sounds like science fiction, but remember that real-life case with the Tesla? It was in the news. A driver in Arizona got locked in her car during a software update. It's 100 degrees Fahrenheit outside, sun beating down. She pulled into a parking spot, and the car decided to update. The electronics shut down, the doors locked because they're electric, the windows wouldn't open, the AC was off. She was stuck in there for 40 minutes while the update ran, nearly getting heat stroke. She was a hostage in her own car.
That's terrifying.
Now apply that to your own body. You're running from a fire or from an attacker, and suddenly your legs stop. And a pleasant voice says, "We're sorry, a critical update for knee firmware version 2.0 is being installed. Please do not power down and remain motionless."
The optimist in me is screaming, but the security will be top-notch. Encryption, biometrics, firewalls. Musk wouldn't let that happen.
My friend, mark my words, nothing is unhackable. The Pentagon gets hacked, banks get hacked, crypto exchanges get robbed blind. You think a startup that's rushing to market is going to build a system that some 15-year-old genius with a laptop in a basement in, I don't know, Pyongyang can't crack? People on Reddit were joking about executing Order 66 from Star Wars. A hacker pushes one button and the entire chipped population just shuts down or starts doing the Macarena.
The Macarena might be the best case scenario. But let's move from illegal thieves to the ones who will rob us legally. Let's talk about the business model. We live in the subscription era. You pay for Netflix, for music, for food delivery, for heated seats in your BMW, which is a real thing, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to capitalism in the cortex. This is the most cynical part of our whole conversation.
The optimist in me is dying a slow, painful death reading these Reddit comments about the subscription tiers. They're hilarious, but it's the kind of laughter where you also want to cry.
It's satire that feels way too close to reality. Users on Reddit basically mapped out the potential tiers of service. Let me read you the menu from the future restaurant called Your Life, the free tier. You can walk, you can see. But with a 2-second lag, you send the signal to take a step, and your leg moves 2 seconds later. It's like playing a video game with bad ping.
That's awful.
Oh,
You'd
yeah.
have no coordination. You'd be falling over constantly.
You want to walk normally. You buy the silver tier, smooth motion, 60 frames per second. But what if you want to be smart? Want to remember your multiplication tables or the names of your old classmates? That's the Math and Memory expansion pack for $14.99 a month. And the diamond tier, that's the holy grail. That's no ads.
The ads, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Our Ukrainian source details the 3 levels of ad hell. And honestly, it sounds disturbingly plausible and technically achievable.
Let's walk through the circles of this particular inferno. Level 1 is just visual clutter, like augmented reality. You're walking down the street, you look at a plain gray building, and the chip overlays a giant flashing Coca-Cola banner on it. You look at the sky, there's a banner. You look at your partner, and they're wearing a virtual t-shirt with a Nike logo. You can't turn it off. It's being drawn directly onto your optic nerve.
Okay, that's annoying, like living inside a website without ad block,
Yeah.
but you could maybe live with it. But level 2, dopamine hijacking. That's what really scares me.
Oh, this is the masterclass in evil. This is the marketer's dream. The chip doesn't just have access to your eyes, it has access to your limbic system, your pleasure centers. Imagine you're walking past a McDonald's. The chip's camera recognizes the logo. At that exact moment, the chip sends a tiny electrical pulse into your nucleus accumbens. You suddenly feel an overwhelming primal joy, a warmth, a hunger. You think you love that burger more than anything in the world.
So you wouldn't even realize you're being manipulated. You just think, I'm so hungry and that's my favorite restaurant. But really, you've just been hormonally hacked.
Precisely. Your emotions become a commodity. You don't own your feelings anymore. And level 3 is punishment. You miss a subscription payment. You get a high-frequency screech in your ears that won't stop. Or your vision blurs. Or you get a constant low-level feeling of nausea until you update your credit card info.
This creates an unbelievable social stratification. We'll have two classes of people. The rich will have a clean brain, a premium brain with no ads, with accelerated thought, with instant access to Wikipedia. They'll be superhuman.
And the poor will be forced to get the ad-supported version just to get a job. Imagine a job interview in the future. Do you have the Neuralink 5.0 interface? No. Sorry, you're not a good fit. We need an employee who can download instructions instantly and work without training breaks. A person without a chip will become like a person without a smartphone today, cut off from society and the economy. People will have to sell their brain space to corporations just to survive, just to put food on the table.
High tech, low life. The classic cyberpunk definition.
Yeah.
But let's talk about maybe the biggest, most ambitious promise Musk has made. Immortality. He claims we'll be able to upload our consciousness to a robot, like a Tesla Optimus, and live forever. The body dies, but the mind lives on in the machine. It sounds tempting, doesn't it? Who doesn't want to live forever?
It's tempting to anyone who skipped philosophy class and never heard of the paradoxes of consciousness. This is where we run straight into the teleporter paradox, or the copy problem. It's a trap.
Unpack that for me, because to me it sounds like save game and load game.
Look, a computer can't move your consciousness like pouring water from one glass to another. Consciousness is a process, not a file. A computer can only copy the data, the structure of your neurons, your memories. Imagine the procedure. You sit in a chair, you get scanned, they create a perfect digital model of your personality and boot it up on an Optimus robot. That digital model opens its eyes, its cameras, looks at its metal hands and thinks, wow, it worked, I'm in the robot. It remembers your childhood, your first kiss, your PIN number. It is convinced it's you.
So, great, I live on.
No, you don't live on. You, the biological you, are still sitting in the chair. You're looking at a robot that's speaking with your voice. For you, nothing has changed. You're still in your old body, you're still mortal, and you're still going to die in 20 or 30 years. The robot just walks away to live its eternal life.
So it's not immortality for me, it's immortality for my copy.
That's it, exactly. You create your digital twin. But for you personally, it's the end of the line. You don't wake up in the robot. Someone else who thinks they're you wakes up in the robot.
That is the saddest thing I've ever heard. But wait, who benefits from this clone?
The corporation. Imagine it. The corporation gets the perfect employee. The digital, you can work 24/7. It doesn't need to sleep, eat, or go to the bathroom. You don't have to pay it a salary, just electricity. And most importantly, it can't die. It is eternal serfdom. Your digital copy could spend centuries sorting spreadsheets, mining crypto, or watching ads to generate revenue. And it can't say stop because it's just code on a Neuralink server. It can't delete itself. It's a hell with no exit.
You know, I started this episode thinking, wow, cool, I'll be a cyborg, I'll know Kung Fu. And now I'm sitting here thinking about how terrifying it would be to be trapped inside your own head. I feel like a character in one of those Black Mirror episodes.
Welcome to the club of realists. Did the rose-tinted glasses shatter?
Completely.
Yeah.
So what do we do? Do we just give up on progress? What about those paralyzed people? For them, this is their only hope. We can't just ban the technology.
Nobody's saying give up. The technology is necessary. But there's one thing that the skeptics, the hackers, and the privacy advocates are all demanding. And I agree with them 100%. It's a hard kill switch.
A hardware kill switch.
Yes, a physical mechanical toggle on the device itself, behind your ear, something that physically breaks the circuit for power and data transmission, something you can flick with your finger or have someone flick for you that doesn't depend on software, that can't be remotely disabled over the internet. You have to have the right to physically turn off the internet in your head and be offline.
Silence is a luxury item. That sounds both poetic and incredibly sad.
In a world where everything is connected, where your fridge and your toilet have Wi-Fi, the ability to be offline, the ability to be alone with your own thoughts, that is going to become the most expensive commodity there is. If you can't turn your implant off, you don't own your body. You're just a user, a renter, and the landlord can evict you at any time.
Okay, let's try to sum up this emotional and intellectual storm. As the optimist, I started with the dream of superpowers, of merging with AI. I'm ending with the terror of getting a blue screen of death in my motor cortex. I've realized one thing. Humanity is probably not mature or responsible enough for this technology yet. We haven't figured out the ethics of social media, we can't protect the data on our phones, and we're already trying to get into our neurons.
And as the skeptic, I'll just say, I told you so. You shouldn't let the guy who renamed Twitter to X, fired the safety team, and unbanned all the bots run wires into your brain. It's a bad idea. The mind is the last bastion of privacy. Don't give it up without a fight.
But we want to end with something to make you, our listeners, really think. Not just to be scared, but to think about the price of convenience.
So here's a final thought for you. Imagine the technology works perfectly. You really can download a skill, just like in the Matrix, no years of practice. You could instantly learn Mandarin, or learn to play the piano like a virtuoso, or get a black belt in karate. It's a superpower. But there's a catch. It's a freemium model. Every single time you use that skill, every time you speed a sentence in Mandarin or touch the keys of a piano, a 30-second, loud, unskippable ad plays across your entire field of vision inside your head.
Would you take that deal? Would you become a genius with commercial breaks?
Think about it. And think about whether your thoughts are really yours if you have to pay a subscription for them and your skills are sponsored by a laundry detergent company.
Thank you for being with us on this deep, dark, and slightly terrifying dive. Take care of your brains, read the user agreements, and remember, sometimes a good old-fashioned textbook is better than a chip in the head.
We'll see you next time, and don't let the bugs bite or the neural worms.
Bye, everyone.